Welcome to Nollywood Radio France. I'm your host, Comfort Abiodun. I'm reporting live from Paris. Please stay with us.
Polyglotte maintenant, mon français c'est il faut grâce tous les jours. C'est très mauvais, toujours, I fake it. Fake it till you make it. Cette chanson is on my mother's tongue, which is Yoruba. So I take you to Yoruba land.
I'm your host, Comfort Abiodun. I'm reporting live from Paris. Actually, I'm with my friends in a restaurant in Montparnasse, and we're all together. We have some Nigerian friends, American friends, and we're sharing the idea about African science fiction.
So, actually, first, me, I'm really interested in Nigerian movie. I don't know if you ever see Nigerian movie before. No, at all.
I will tonight on YouTube.
On YouTube?
I will find some.
Okay, yeah, you find some on YouTube. And or any African film maybe before?
Not really. North American one. North African one.
North African? What do you mean North African? I mean the Algerian? Okay.
Don't remember.
Okay. And you watch often,
Yeah. I watch Nigerian movies.
Yeah, from Nollywood. Okay.
I watch it.
And what do you think about the idea of having African science fiction film like the Marvel, the Thor? So actually Thor is a film that was inspired by the North cosmogony, the Viking, they talk the Viking history and the Viking culture, and then they make some Marvel film, science fiction in the space. And what about, do you think or imagine African legend, like Mamiwata, for example, and put it into a Marvel, film? What do you think it can,
Come out of it?
Yeah.
Okay, first I'll say, I think what is happening in the industry, if you notice, there's a revamp in the African Nollywood industry. In revamp, there's rebranding. They have better movies now, and they try to pick some Western. Nasty.
Je ferai l'éditing.
On va couper au montage.
I'm part of my discussion.
Alors, bien sucré.
Ah, merci. Hop là.
J'avais aussi un verre de Bordeaux.
Ok.
Elle est intégrée. En français. Lola.
Ah ouais. Rouge.
Tu es bien intégré.
You integrate, yeah. French wine.
Yeah, Bordeaux.
Thank you very much.
Moi j'avais un Monaco aussi.
Oh, it's okay. Yeah, we'll have already. Thank you. Okay. And we can join people together after everyone. Yep. So you were talking about the...
So at the moment, if you look at the industry, it's I want to use the right word. It's transforming.
Yeah.
The Nollywood industry is transforming.
Yeah.
And you can notice that most of their movies, they still want to hold on to their African roots.
Yeah.
In the movies, but at the same time, they are adopting Western culture.
Yeah.
The way they produce, the way they shoot, the storylines also. You could see some influence of the Western culture.
Yeah.
So probably it's going to be something very interesting if they're going to have a sci-fi film.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting, I think, because I think it's about trying.
Yeah.
You know, trying. Then if you try, if it doesn't suit the industry, then maybe you could go back than not trying at all. So it's better you try it and see how it goes.
And what is your impression like, you know, put it into scenario, fantasy, you know, legend, you know, topic, like I said before, like Mami Water or... do you know Mami Water, Christophe?
No.
You don't know?
But that sounds very funny.
Yeah. Mami Water is a legend. Actually, I think they have the same legend in France, you know, the legend of a sirene. You know, half a woman and half... yeah.
That's
so,
like a mermaid.
And in Africa, that story is really, in all Africa, that story is really known. And, you know, you can talk it to kids, and kids, you know, sometimes get scared.
Creepy.
And because African culture is really a culture that have lots of emotion and lots of nature inside, do you think that African can be a kind of more because they have the mystic side?
Yeah, they have the mystic side, but at the same time, they're trying not to portray recently.
Yeah,
they're trying not to portray the mystic side of it anymore.
Yeah,
because nobody wants to hear some negative thing, and I don't want to sit down and watch a movie of 1 hour, 2 hours of something negative. You should look right into my eyes while you're taking it.
I got so creepy, like I make sure
I was trying to understand why did they say you have to look into the person's eyes. I was like,
they have a reason why.
Maybe I would ask.
Ça s'entend. Bienvenue.
So I wanted to ask, what's the reason when they say you should look into the person's eye when you're sharing, like you have? This is a big project actually.
The science fiction, African science fiction, African legend. Actually, I talked about it with one of director of film. He said it costs lots of money, you know, to do a science fiction film because lots of informaticians, you know, have to work. If you really want to do a science fiction film with the effects, you know, the effects. Yeah, you have to have graphists, you have to have people who doing code, or people who doing programming, 2D or 3D game programming to have all, you know, the effects. Yeah. So then you have the science fiction, which is the highest level, but you have to the legend film or the fantastic film. The legend film, you don't need, you know, a big budget to do a legend film because you can just take the idea of the legend and put it into, you know, maybe in a forest or maybe close to a river and tell the story that people hear in Africa. And in the sociology point of view, what do you think that science fiction can bring, African science fiction or African legend can bring to American or European? Let me ask that to Christophe. So Christophe, did you have the idea in a sociology point of view? What do you think that African science fiction or African legend can bring to European country?
Many things, I think, but the main problem would be is Europe or North America open-minded enough to, in the cinema industry, I mean, to learn from African or Nigerian cinema. If there are, I think there's many things to learn. That's mandatory. There's many things to learn from any countries. It would be cultural. That would be.
Bacon cheeseburger? Oui. Okay. Ladies first.
Ladies first.
Second, so Christophe, you from Corse?
Yeah, from France.
From France. Okay, so you live in France, and what do you think that the idea of a science fiction, African science fiction or African legend can bring to European culture?
That's a good question.
Or maybe there was a film called if you remember, a film called Kirikou.
Yeah, the cartoon.
Yeah, the cartoon. And Kirikou. There was a film called Kirikou. It's a cartoon, African cartoon, that tells the story of a little boy.
Oh, the little black boy.
Yeah, that's it. And in that Kirikou. And in that film there were a lot of morality. There was a lot of code of conduct. That every time if you do good happens to you.
In general, basically, I think we have to learn a lot from Africa, the oldest continent. So I think if the cinema industry is made, produced, and realized by Nigerians or African ones, and not Europeans or American ones, I think they would have many things to learn from by the way they do, by the stories, the morality, as you say, the values, the African cinema could bring to the Western world, to the modern world. I think there could be different ways to realize movies too. Why not? As I said, if we are open-minded, we could learn a lot from any countries in the world. We learn from India and the Bollywood movie. We learn from Eastern European movie. We learn from Japanese and Chinese movies. So why don't we learn from African ones? I'm not specialist from the cinema industry, so I don't know what.
Yeah, but you like to see, film.
Sure, I do. Sure. Yeah. Especially French and American ones in France, I'm sure. Mostly American ones because the American sci-fi is the best in the world, that's for sure. And I would be pleased and very curious to know more about some African sci-fi.
Okay, so I'll let you know. Thank you very much.
That sounds very funny.
Yeah. Thank you, Christophe. And actually I have that subject because I'm doing an extra activity with Nollywood Radio France here in Paris, and I have that subject that I'm trying to talk with different people about African science fiction. So what do you think about the idea of making of an African science fiction film using, we can see like film like Thor, who is a Marvel, and using the legend of the North, of the Viking mythology, because Thor is a Viking mythology. And what do you think about the idea of making a science fiction, African science fiction film? Do you think it would bring something to you?
Using like African mythology?
Yes, that's it.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah. The legend, and maybe because they have a lot to do.
Yes, there's a lot to do because there are a lot of different cultures, or if you want to call them, like you have the Egypt, for example, civilization.
Yeah.
So that's one. But you also have some cultures in, like the Zulus.
Oh yeah.
So you have some
the legend.
Yes, like what people's ideas of what they were about, and putting it with a lot of African things that is really African. Really related to African culture, or the way they see things.
Stories, oral stories, traditional stories.
Yes.
To be put on the screen.
Yeah. It would be interesting for Europeans, to learn about the cosmogony, African cosmogony, like the Yoruba.
Yes.
Yoruba, they have that African cosmogony, like the Ogun gods, the Ife gods. Yeah. And do you think that what do you think about sociology point of view?
Like to use it as a way to educate people about African culture?
African folklore? or like
African code or African way of being.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or morality.
Yes.
Philosophy or things like that.
Yeah. I think that it's an interesting take to use science fiction and African folklore to talk and to explain to people that are not necessarily doesn't know much about Africa, about how things work in this part of the world.
Yeah.
Because you can take that with the Incas, or the people in South America. You have the Native Americans. They have their things that are very. It's just them. It's just their culture, and they can use it as a method to explain to people what it's all about, instead of that perspective that is a little bit kind of someone's subjective perspective about them.
Who is going to produce this and do this?
Nigeria, for instance, if it's a Nigeria, I'm actually have an activity. I'm working for Nollywood Radio France. I'm a kind of newly film critic, and I'm trying, to get out the idea of African science fiction and African fantasy film, like the King of the Ring, stories like that, and sharing with people, hearing what you like in science fiction or what you expect about African science fiction or African legend film.
I don't know what to expect, but maybe it's good that it would be nice if Africans could do it and put it in their fashion, tell it the way they are used to telling, this strong tradition of storytelling, and so you could be surprised. You don't have to expect anything. You should. Of course, it has to please everybody. It has to please the audience.
You have to be able to reach a mainstream. Yes.
But not to compromise the integrity of what the message is, to try and fit into some other form of, be true to,
have its own way of doing things.
Yeah. So, what you're saying is that what is important for you is the authenticity. It's not like it should be in a format like Marvel or things like that. No, African authenticity. This is the originality of the African legend or fantasy.
Yeah, because I think Africa has everything it needs. You don't need to really copy anybody.
Maybe African doesn't need science fiction. I mean, the special effect,
like, for example, what was the name of the one with the blue?
You can use the special effects. I don't think using the technology tools is fine, but maybe this is the way the script is written or the way that the story is presented should be coming from.
It's what you do with those effects. Something that's African. Using this technology.
But you can still make it on the same technological or special effects as far as everyone else, but do it from your perspective, and even the difference between a Lord of the Rings type movie and the Marvel comic books, they all use special effects in their own way, but their stories are very different formats. One's more fantasy and nature adventure, and others kind of comic book characters, and they all use the technology, but they tell their story their way.
Cool. First act. Thank you.
I'm your host, Comfort Abiodun. I'm reporting live from Paris.